You are not alone if you experience repeated feelings of inadequacy, incompetence, or the belief that you are unworthy of success despite proven evidence. This phenomenon is called imposter syndrome, and research suggests that 70% of people experience these feelings and thoughts. So I asked my Instagram followers about their experience with imposter syndrome, and this is what one of my followers had to say. I don't feel like I'm skilled or have talent, and I'm worried others see that. I lack confidence. Now, although imposter syndrome can be crippling, you don't have to fall victim to it. Today, we'll be joined by multi-hyphenate Zacharina to discuss the realities of dealing with imposter syndrome as a creative. She will also share the ways that she has managed to overcome the feeling. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Today, I am joined by self-taught creative director and entrepreneur, producer, and content creator, Zacharina. Okay, she has also founded her very own creative agency and production company called The Genie's Collective. She's worked with brands like Mugler and Fashion Bomb Daily. She's also produced quite a few fashion shows here in the DMV area, like Bloom City Fashion Show, for Fever Class. If y'all can't already tell, I am dealing with a multi-hyphenate all the way around, and I am super thrilled and excited and honored to have her here on the show. Zacharina, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and kick it with your girl.
Thank you for having me. And that was a great introduction, Ten.
Good. Good. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna miss anything. You know, this girl be doing it all. I wanted to make sure I hit all of the points. Why do you have imposter syndrome given all of your accolades?
I feel like it's my environment that kind of puts me there because like I go to these like events, I go to these places and I do all these things, but I always end up in the same like environment with the same people who know me for when I wasn't all these things or I didn't have all these accomplishments. So it's like kind of keeping me in that mental space of I'm still here, but like knowingly I know I'm not. So it's that constant battle of just checking myself and understanding that I am the girl that I think and know I am. Like, for example, the other day I had put out in search of, I just found out that ISO meant in search of. So I put that out and I received so many like people who were interested, and I was just so overwhelmed by the amount of numbers that shared it and like hit my DM. And like sometimes I forget like how big my presence is until people like remind me in real life. So like I would say that you're bigger than where you are now, and please embrace the path in which you're like taking. But like for me, imposter syndrome is always going to be a thing because I'm an overthinker. Like, you know, I always want to do well and everything like that. So like I always feel like I have to hit the next goal because it's not enough. It's never enough. But sometimes it is enough. And it took me taking a pause and really being okay with stillness to understand that I've actually accomplished a lot and I have a lot of places to go and I'm still not finished with my journey. So
When you say things aren't enough, what is enough for Zacharina?
see, it's never going to be enough for Zacharina. Let's just, it's never going to be enough. But like for me, like it's when my environment changes or when my
Okay.
finances change or like just big milestones in my life change. That's when I feel like I'll start feeling like it's some touching enough. Like, you know what I mean? When something changes the dynamic of my day to day life. Like, I feel like I can go to these events and I'd still have the same dynamic of my day to day life. And that would depress me sometimes because it's not a space in which I enjoy being in. However, it is the space that made me today. So now with me, because I was like depressed back in like December. So now with me, taking that space to actually acknowledge that I had to take those falls and those L's in order for me to even get to where I am right now. All I've been doing is projecting on positivity onto the year. And honestly, I have nowhere to go but up because I've taken the blows, you know?
Yeah, I like that you said like just being able to recognize that you needed to take those falls. Looking at those shortcomings and appreciating them. And I like that you brought up just the concept of gratitude altogether because I think gratitude plays a big role. And at least for me, like it plays a big role in like helping me not feel so down about like where I am, right? And so you mentioned being still. What does being still look like for you? And how did you get to the place of like accepting stillness?
Being still, for me, is being in the waiting room, which is essentially the same thing. Being in the waiting room is, to me, and I'm a visual person, so it's sitting in the dark for you don't know how much time is passing by. You can't see anything. You walk around, it's an endless thing of nothingness, like, and you're just sitting in there and you're just literally waiting for things to happen until you bump into something that's either gonna make or break you. And sometimes you sit in that waiting room, and sometimes you run into other people and they will be in the waiting room with you, but at the end of the day, it's still your mental journey. It's still something, and it takes a lot of faith to be put in that space. So when I say falls, I know some people can take falls as negative, but falling can actually change your depth of perception. It can actually change like how you feel your surroundings. And it could also give you a burst of energy. It could boost your adrenaline. Falling is a lot of things. Like, falling doesn't always have to mean that you're going down. You could be falling sideways or wherever. So, like, for me, when it comes to just me going through the ups and downs of my life, like, I feel like it's very necessary in order for me to really take in the things that I need to. For example, like, while in the waiting room, you're praying for discipline. You're praying for comfortability in your life, stability, all these things. You're going to get the opposite, like, every time when you're trying to get those type of changes, because it ignites something in you that you haven't had before. So, like, for me, that's pretty much what being in the waiting room and just sitting in stillness is. It's just embracing your faith and knowing that everything will be okay despite the outcomes of getting there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And it makes me want to segue into a segment that I have called Bitch, Did You See That Tweet? Okay, I think the name is pretty self explanatory. I find tweets on my TL and I bring it to the show, okay? And today's tweet was tweeted by at Cessa de Love. And the tweet reads, "Nobody really talks about how hard waiting on God can be. Some days you feel strong and full of faith. Other days you break down in tears, wondering how much longer this season will last." You talked about the waiting room and just darkness and uncertainty. And I wanted to tap a little bit more into that. And I wanted to know what waiting on God was like for you in that time. Like, tell me about your experience with waiting on God as a creative in the waiting room.
If I'm being honest, I'm still there. I'm still there. Like, I can't even say I'm out. Like, I feel like I'm seeing light, final, like a glimmer of light. But I know it's always been there. Like, I feel like you start your journey in the waiting room once you find your purpose. Like, once you find your purpose, that's when your journey in the waiting room really starts, because then you start getting all these challenges and stuff that actually adds on to the journey of your purpose. And that's the hardest part, because it really challenges your morals, it challenges your values, it challenges who you are as a person, it makes you question the people around you, it changes your environment, it makes you take decisions that you would never take before, and all of that is just so new and uncomfortable, and you just have to take them, because at the end of the day you have to have faith that you specifically are chosen for this opportunity, or you're chosen for this relationship in order to feed into you and what you have to give and in your purpose. So for me, and what my journey looks like being in the waiting room, it's not always consistent. Like, for example, I started off wanting to be a stylist because I was creative and I was good at it, but it led me into really questioning, like, what do I actually want to give to humankind? What is, like, the mark that I want to make on this earth? And it's always been uplifting, like, the Black and the minority community behind the scenes in our representation in media and in fashion. So with that being said, that led me into doing the project that I take on. It led me into the Genius Collective, where we make something happen out of nothing. Like, being resourceful, like, all of those things come from, like, the culture around me and, like, my journey. So, like, everything is very intentional, and once you start seeing meaning in everything that you're doing in the waiting room, it stops feeling like the waiting room and it feels like the training room. You know what I mean? That was a bar.
That was a bar.
Quote that. But, like, literally. So for me, it looked like tears. And sometimes I had to record myself because I knew that it was going to be a memory because I was never going to quit. No one's telling me no. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, people told me no, but no one's like stopping me because I feel like I'd feel like an idiot or I'd feel like disobedient if I didn't like do the things that I was called to do or execute the ideas that only came to me. Like, you know what I mean? Or I feel like I missed out on an opportunity. So like for me, that's pretty much what my journey has been like.
I feel that. And I resonate heavily with the disobedience because I think there have been times where I have felt like afraid, scared, worried, unsure. And I cannot not acknowledge that like God called me to this. And so how dare I disregard his instruction for my life because it is the ultimate plan for my life, right? He knows best and this is what he's calling me to. And I think also understanding that like it's more than just me that my story impacts. So like just I totally get the disobedience and recognizing that I think the best way that I can say it is like how dare I tell God no at the very least when he is telling me to do XYZ. So I totally feel that. You touched on purpose and you touched on how like you don't really start the waiting, like you don't really enter the waiting room until you find your purpose. And I think some would argue that like they're in the waiting room because they don't know their purpose. And so I guess if you could help all of us understand how you think one can find their purpose so that they can get into the waiting room so that they can get somewhere. I'd rather be waiting than not knowing where I'm going. So walk me through like what finding your purpose look like to you. How can someone find their purpose?
I feel like one, you have to question what moves your heart, like more than anything, and that would be your North Star. Like, what is the one issue in humanity that you feel like just drives you to create or to actually write? Because everybody has it. Like, everybody has that one thing that really just affects them or that really matters to them, and then you assess the skills that you have in order to pretty much add on to this issue. Like, how can I impact this issue? How can I be impactful? What are the skills that I have in my arsenal? And then it's like, what do I enjoy doing?
Like I don't know if you ever see like those like corny like memes that are like God didn't give you that dream for a reason. You know, when you have those
Mm-hmm.
inclinations, those feelings, it's like that is definitely a starting point for you. So
Yeah,
explore it
like
rather than
those things
right.
matters. And the thing is, when it comes to ideas, like I believe that there's like an idea library because you ever had an idea and you ain't never told nobody that idea, but somebody across the world you don't even know who had that same idea. Like it's like that. Like, you know what I mean? So like if it's not you, it's just gonna go to somebody else, and he's gonna move through somebody else. But that doesn't mean that you don't have other chances. It just means that that was not the time for you, or that you were just not ready for that idea. You don't have the right circumstances for that idea, or you just weren't in the right mental space. And that doesn't have to tear you down or anything like that. But just because somebody else did it doesn't mean that you can't do it either. You know what I mean? Because sometimes your flair is what is needed for that idea to even pop off or be impactful to the world. So
For sure, for sure. I like that because I think another thing that I'm sure some people experience when it comes to just having imposter syndrome or self-doubt is, you know, comparison, especially with social media. And I think we blame let me say I blame social media a lot for everything, but like social media is not the only reason why I would be comparing. Like I feel like I've always just been in a comparison mindset. Like even in school, it's like, oh my gosh, Sally's getting an A. Come on, Constance, you got to do better. I'm curious to know if you've ever struggled with comparison.
yeah, I mean, I look at comparison like this. Like, we're just the same person on a different timeline. Like, I feel like everybody operates on different batteries, and those batteries impact people in different ways. So, when it comes to comparison, it's never like a tit for tat for me. It's rather a what am I doing with my time and what is reflecting in their journey that mimics mine to make me feel like um, I have to look to them to like, to either gain motivation or even have jealousy, because jealousy is a thing. And I mean, like you can see someone's accomplishment and sometimes you won't always receive someone's accomplishments the best way. Like that's just like human nature. But then you have to like see within yourself, like, why is that? I remember I remember when I was younger and I was like, oh, I was telling my aunt, I was like, Zendaya is like literally around the same age as me. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, you know what I mean? Like, certain things like that. But in all honesty, it just shows that you are capable of getting there. It's just like, how are you applying the tools that you have in order to get there? And what I would say when it comes to just comparison is the people around you may even compare you. Like they may even be jealous of you. And you can identify that within your conversations with them, how you share your accomplishments and stuff like that. Because some people, unfortunately, want to keep you in the same space. Like they want you to stay local to them. That's why people move out of their people move out of their hometowns and stuff like that, because people are always seen as what they used to be, not where they're going. And some people are jealous of those gifts that God gave you, and those visions that God gave you. And they can't see it for themselves, so they try to tear you down and keep you down. And unfortunately, it works for some people, but for the people who it didn't work for, we got, great talents.
Would you say that you've overcame the feeling of imposter syndrome, or is it something that you still currently are struggling with?
I feel like until I reach a certain goal within my personal life, I won't really ever overcome it, because I feel like a lot of what has to do with my personal imposter syndrome has to do with like my family. And I feel like once I separate myself from that and I completely, because, and I also feel like this is a cultural thing too. Like me being African, I'm first generation African and American. And a lot of times, like, you're always seeking for approval from your family members. Like you're always seeking for that validation, or like because you're not doing things traditionally, like you're always seeking to prove them wrong. And sometimes because they see you doing things unconventionally or not to the way that they would do it, because in my opinion a lot of them work harder, not smarter. That's just how I see it. So like, with that being said, they unfortunately they like to keep you where you're at, and sometimes those conversations will put you in that space of imposter syndrome, like, oh, I gotta do that, I gotta do more, I gotta do more. And it's an unconscious it's an unconscious effort to pretty much prove them wrong, even though you really don't have anything to prove it at all. And one thing that I'm finding comfort is finding comfort in is I don't have to prove anything but to God. So like, me journaling and me talking through it and like me praying, like those are things that get me through it. Like, it's not the validation from others or seeking that. Sometimes you tell someone good news and then like they're just not going to take it the way that you want to take it. But I'm learning that I can't I can't place like my happiness and how people receive my good news, or how they receive me doing well in life, because at the end of the day, their version of doing well in life and my version of doing well in life is completely different.
Before I let you go, I want you to let us know what you have coming up next. If you have anything coming up next, let us know about your upcoming projects.
Of course, I have quite a bit coming up with me establishing the Genies Collective. I'm really excited. So you can see a lot more productions, like video productions and branding from me for other brands coming soon, and an event series. But I don't really want to talk too much about it. I just want to let you guys know it's coming. Unfortunately, we are not doing Fever Class this year. This is the first time I'm saying it in public, but we are bringing it back next year, and we're just figuring out branding for sponsorships and things like that. But there's a lot of big things in the works in my corner, and I can't wait to present it to the world, honestly.
I know that's right. We can't wait to see them. Let the people know where they can follow you, where they can find you, how they can keep up with you, so they can see all the things going on.
Oh, yeah. So y'all can find your girl at Zacharina.a. I'm sure she's gonna put it, below. And then you can also follow our agency at the Genies Collective on IG. Yeah, but that's how you find me. Find me.
All right, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all look her up. Like she said, everything will be in the description box below. Now that concludes today's episode. I want to know if you guys struggle with imposter syndrome. And if you do, how do you overcome the feeling? Leave a comment down below. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.